Whoop.
My bad.
We're here on the Locked On NFL podcast. It's the Wednesday edition. Chris Carter, James Rapien. How many quarterbacks are going to go in the first round, and how early are they going to be taken? We'll explore that. Jerry Jeudy getting paid, and how many receivers go early. All here on the Locked On NFL podcast.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. It's your hosts, Chris Carter and James Rapien, and we've got a lot to talk about today on today's episode. It's going to be an exciting one. We get some NFL draft talk, free agency talk, and more draft talk. But as always, you can find this show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this channel to get all of the daily episodes that come out from the Locked On NFL podcast. Remember, we're rotating hosts every single day, so you can get whatever talk from wherever person that you like in our rotation here, Monday through Friday. And we are sponsored today by FanDuel Sportsbook, the number one sportsbook in America. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 back if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. James, if I were to tell you that 5 quarterbacks were projected by Mel Kiper of ESPN to go in the first round, where would you say that 5th quarterback was taking in the first round?
Oh, 5 in the first round.
Yes.
Well, I would say we know the 3 that should go.
Yes.
I think JJ McCarthy is someone we've all tabbed as someone who could go in the top 12.
Yes.
But then you have Penix, you have Bo Nix. And so when you have those guys, I would say somewhere between 20 and 30, that 5th quarterback could go off the board. Someone maybe
you would be wrong if you would be wrong about Mel Kiper has Bo Nix going 12th overall to the Denver Broncos.
Bo Nix 12.
Your face was my face. Your face was my face when I saw that.
Sean Payton. Oh man.
Bo
Nix.
Bo Nix. I am not lying to you. I'm looking at it right now. So let's go over a few things. So like you said, the top 3 quarterbacks, everyone you can, there's no doubt everyone's saying Caleb Williams to the Bears. That's a definite. There's some people that say Drake May should go number 2, Jaden Daniels should go number 2, but it's clear those are the top 3. Then after that, you get to the next tier of guys where I have to admit, like Bo Nix is another thing, but I still don't have JJ McCarthy as a first round guy to me. Like I think if you take him in the second, that could be solid, but I just haven't seen enough of JJ McCarthy in an NFL-style offense or making NFL-type throws to justify taking him high up in the first round. But according to Mel Kiper, he's being taken here 11th overall by the Vikings in the first round. And then right after that, he has Bo Nix, who I definitely don't have as a first-round quarterback, at 12. And to me, James, I get it. There's a run at quarterback. Whenever there's a run at quarterback, teams are trying to get theirs. But man, this sure does not add up to being like right after Bo Nix, the picks that come after him: J.C. Latham, Olu Fashanu, Quinion Mitchell, Troy Fatano, Terrion Arnold, Talisa Fuaga. Like right there are all top-level tackles and corners who will go for a premium in the first round if that many quarterbacks are taken.
Yeah, that's if you're one of these teams and the Jags at 17, the team you cover, the Steelers at 20, the Bengals, the team I cover at 18, you want 52 quarterbacks to go.
Yeah.
You want as many quarterbacks to
take
go. There's a lot of offensive tackles. There's some quality corners. There's a lot of wide receivers. We'll get to receivers coming up in a bit. But quarterback, the reason why, and I get why, if you don't have a quarterback, if you don't have a franchise quarterback, you feel broke. Even if the rest of your roster is great, you could have everything and you feel broke. It's like searching for water in a desert. You need the quarterback thirst is so real. And that's why I buy it. I don't want to rule it out because you know what I would say if I was leading the Denver Broncos, if we think there's a franchise quarterback there, I don't care who else is there. I don't care if it's the next best edge rusher, Myles Garrett 2.0. It's not more valuable than a franchise quarterback. He's just not. At the same time, and this is where it gets really interesting. This idea that that there are 5 franchise quarterbacks in this draft class. There is not. There will not be. It's very, very hard to do. And there certainly won't be 5 in the first 12 picks. Even when you look at some of these really good quarterback drafts, or you look at the 2020 draft, you have Joe Burrow in the first round, first overall. Herbert, 5 picks later. In between there, Tua Tagovailoa. You have a second rounder that hits in Jalen Hurts. Well, that's where it taps out. It's going to be really hard to get 5 in the first 12 picks. So these franchises better have it right, and you better get it right. Otherwise, well, you may be talking to us on Locked On NFL in a few years, GMs, because you ain't going to be in the NFL any longer.
Yeah, well, you miss at quarterback. Here's the one thing. You miss at quarterback, it hurts, it sets you back. But if you hit at quarterback, you have set your franchise up for the next 10 to 15 years with a leader, with a guy that's going to keep your offense going, and then you look like a genius. Kevin Colbert for the Steelers, right? Kenny Pickett didn't work out as his last first-round draft pick. But if you think of Kevin Colbert's career, everyone's going to look back and say, yeah, but he drafted Ben Roethlisberger. And that can prop up a whole career as a GM if you hit there. So I get trying to take the stab, trying to take the shot and saying, hey, we can get the guy that's going to fix everything in this offense. When you have that many, this draft class is loaded with top tier tackles, corners, receivers, guys who I think could be game breakers in the NFL, guys that can be pillars for your team. And, I get the first 3 picks, but when you get to the McCarthys and the Nixes and the Penixes, and you weigh them again, weigh the shot at the chance that they give you at maybe them being a franchise quarterback versus, say, a top tier left tackle or a top tier corner. I'm sorry, I'm gonna take the guy that's much more assured to be the latter than is unsure to be the former. I think you're on mute.
I get it. I do. You look at this class, and man, would you rather wait? Do you like Spencer Rattler? Because if you like Spencer Rattler, I might rather get him, round 2, round 3, and have pieces around him versus Bo Nix, right? Do you like Jordan Travis coming off of the injury? Is there Joe Milton's obviously throwing 70,000-yard bombs, and it has impressed people. I think that's the interesting dynamic here is you have to make that decision. And a lot of these teams are going to say, no, I would rather have the better prospect. That's why, to me, Williams, Daniels, May, or Williams, May, Daniels, however you want to rank it, those 3 are going to go. Like you said, McCarthy is going to go. Penix, even with the injury stuff, is going to go at some point in round 1. And so I do think Bo Nix could certainly go round 1. Top 12, I don't buy it. I'm selling that. I think it'll be more in that 18, maybe 15, because you could move up even more. That 15 to 25 range for a couple of these other guys. And we'll see. But it's mighty, mighty interesting. Also, Sam Hartman. I should have mentioned him because I think he has a lot of talent as well. If you like one of those guys, it might be worth just waiting, taking one of those guys on day 2. But the hit rate is much, much shorter. And that's why you see these mocks with so many quarterbacks going off the board. You mentioned receiver. We need to get to receiver from a draft standpoint, and why I think they're going to fly off the board. But before we do that, the Cleveland Browns, did they make a mistake because they just paid big money for a wide receiver? We will get to that coming up next.
But first, I want to remind you that this show is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle. You can level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, to exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, because eBay's guaranteed fit your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers.
Jerry Jeudy got paid, Chris. He got paid.
Dude.
He's got way more, and he already did, but he's got way more money than we could ever dream of. $41 million guaranteed, $58 million. That's right, a 3-year, $58 million extension for the Browns wide receiver. I get trading for him. When I saw that he signed an extension, agreed to an extension, I was like, oh, well, maybe they just wanted to massage out that $12 million cap hit. And then you look and it's $41 million guaranteed.
Ooh.
He's never had 1,000 yards. He's never caught more than 67 passes in a season. He's had his career high was 6 touchdowns in 2022. He appeared in 10 games in 2021 without catching a touchdown. Hasn't had great quarterback play in Denver. Former first rounder. Once upon a time, I thought he had a chance to be the number 1 receiver in that 2020 draft class, which is obviously Justin Jefferson. But there's been plenty of talent that came out of that class. Your reaction to the Cleveland Browns spending some big time money on the former first rounder?
I have to admit, I don't get it. And like, I got the initial trade. Like when I found out Jerry Jeudy was going there, I get getting the talent itself. Matching with Amari Cooper, you can see how things work out. But that extension for that kind of money in this league where you're about to see, now I get this. The Browns, they're short on draft picks. Like, I don't even know when their first draft pick is in this draft class, but I know they don't have a first rounder, right? So
yeah, they have a second rounder, I believe. Yeah,
they have a second rounder. Well, you can still get a good receiver this year's draft class in the second round. But I get, just saying like, hey, if you want a first round, but I do not get paying this kind of money for Jerry Jeudy unless you see something that I don't. And it's one thing to bring a guy in like this. It's another thing to give him that much money in your salary cap. Like that's going to be money that you tie up for a while, for the next 3 years when the Browns already have money tied up in, Deshaun Watson and, money tied up in Myles Garrett and Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb and Denzel Ward. And like, okay, so you throw that into the mix. I'm very curious to see, how this plays out salary cap wise. I have no idea about the numbers. According to overthecap.com, they had about $5.7 million in cap space. And I think this was before this move here. Next year, I think it's going to open up a little bit more, but I'm a little confused here with this. I mean, also like even beyond just the numbers, like James, you remember seeing Steve Smith and Jerry Jeudy going at it? I think it was Thursday Night Football. I forget which game it was. It was like late this year. And like Jerry Jeudy came at Steve Smith and said that he don't know ball or something like that, because Steve Smith had said that I haven't seen enough from Jerry Jeudy. And Steve Smith just calls out Jerry Jeudy, tells me he ain't going to make a catch in this game. And sure enough, he didn't make a catch in that game. And it was just like, you see it. And there's time and time again where I don't see the potential number 1 receiver in Jeudy. Out of college, I was like, dude, that guy is going to be a problem. But in the NFL, especially with 4 years, I haven't seen it. And again, if you just add him to your team and he's just like a $3 to $5 million cap hit and you see what he's got, and then he shows you that, totally understand it. But the big time extension right now, that I don't.
Yeah, I think this is what the Browns are saying. They're saying, all right, we have him and they restructured his deal to save about $10 million in cap space because it was the 5th year option. They restructured it before the contract extension. They did that a few days ago. And so what they're saying is, we believe in his talent. We know he underperformed in Denver. We're going to get more out of him here, and we're going to buy low. And not just buy low by trading for him, buy low by investing in him. And this could work. If he ends up delivering and being the heir to the Amari Cooper throne and becoming your number 1 receiver, because that's what they're paying him to do. By doing this, you could pay Amari. I think he has 1 year left on his deal. You're probably not. You're probably going to get younger at wide receiver afterwards. And you say Jeudy can be a building block, because if he ends up going for 1,000 plus this year, well, would he have gotten more on the open market next year? Yeah, probably. So I get the logic, but it is a risk. And it's something the Browns continue to do, is take these risks. The Amari Cooper was a great buy low at the time because that contract wasn't even crazy. And since then, wide receiver contracts have skyrocketed. So they stole Amari Cooper. I wouldn't say they stole Jerry Jeudy, but they got him for a reasonable price. Now we'll see if they're right about his talent, because now they're putting their money, not just a few late round draft picks, a 5th and a 6th, their money where their mouth is. And if they're right, great, but it is a big risk. And as we get to coming up, as we discuss the draft, there's a lot of receivers in this draft. And I don't know if I would have made this investment now.
Real quick though, where does Jerry Jeudy stand in the AFC North ranking of wide receivers?
Well, I'll just go down the list. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So it's Jamar T.
Yes.
All right. So there's two.
Mm-hmm.
It will go to Pittsburgh. Obviously, Pickens.
Mm-hmm.
I would say is more talented.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't had huge years, but it had over 1,000 yards this past year. So that already passes it. All right. So there's two. A Cooper, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So 4.
Would you say Zay Flowers?
And then we got it. Yes, absolutely.
There
so Zay Flowers. There's 5. I mean, who would you rather have? Jerry Jeudy? 4 year, basically 4
all
years.
All 5 of those guys you named, I'd rather have than Jerry Jeudy.
No doubt. And Deontay Johnson, I would have rather had too before he got traded.
Away. I agree. I agree. Yeah.
Tyler Boyd.
If he comes back to the AFC North, sure.
I'm just curious. Yeah, at the number he would come back, and I think he's more likely to sign with the team you cover, is probably better value than this number.
Yeah,
I don't think he has the juice. But to your point, and who's to say the Steelers don't take a receiver at 20? Who's to say?
I've been playing with this possibility, James. They talked to Adunza, they talked to Thomas, they talked to Mitchell at the combine. Because we were surprised about ourselves. We thought they were going to be heavy on center and tackle and corner and linebacker. And then we talked to receivers just to let's just go see what receivers they've talked to. And we found out they have been interviewing the
They'd
top
have to
guys
trade up for Adunza.
They would have to trade up. I don't think they're going to do that. I think that might be a Mike Tomlin hey, buddy, how you doing? Maybe I might see you in 4 years or so. I mean, again, that's what Mike Tomlin did with Justin Fields. There's a very Pittsburgh famous clip where he was like, "Hey, Justin, I came here to see you today." He knew he was never getting Justin Fields back when the draft happened, but lo and behold, Justin Fields is a Pittsburgh Steeler today. And so maybe that's that. But like a Brian Thomas, an Adonai Mitchell, I could see one of those guys maybe at 20.
Yeah, and let's dive into that. Without further ado, let's get into it, because if Jerry Jeudy's getting that kind of money, what could this wide receiver draft class look like that is deep at receiver? Loaded. We'll dive into the 2024 NFL Draft Wide Receiver Edition coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's right. Throw $5 on any parlay you want. If you want to go with a money line, you can certainly do that as well. Point spreads, all things sports betting with FanDuel. And you get that $5 you hit, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets to use on all things tournament. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops as they cut down the nets. Again, do it right now. FanDuel.com/lockedon. $5, get a $200 bonus bet, and bet and wager until they cut down the nets.
Back here on the Wednesday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast, Chris Carter, James Rapien. James, let's talk about this wide receiver draft class, because that's another category that's going to see guys fly off early. Going back to Mel Kiper's mock draft here, I'm going to look at the receivers that were taken. The first receiver off the board was Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. You had Harrison at 4, Neighbors at 5, Adunza at 6. So 3 quarterbacks, then 3 wide receivers. Then looking down the list here, excuse me, as I'm scrolling, we're at... There's a big gap between that player and then the next receiver off the board. He has Brian Thomas Jr. of LSU going to the Steelers at 20. And then after that is another gap here. Xavier Worthy from Texas going to the Bucs at 26. And Xavier Leggett of South Carolina going to the Lions at 29. And then the Chiefs getting Adonai Mitchell out of Texas at 32. So by my count, I believe that's 7 wide receivers. I may have just miscounted, but I think that's 7 first-round wide receivers there. Over under that. If I give you a 7 as your push and you had to pick over and under, where would you take that in this draft class?
I would go, honestly, I would probably go over. And the reason you go over, it's a couple of things. Positional value is something that's discussed a ton. For example, you mentioned center. center is not considered as valuable anymore as wide receiver.
100%.
Guard, as valuable as it is, I think wide receiver is right up there with cornerback.
Yep.
Is right up there with these high-end players, quarterback, cornerback, offensive tackle, and wide receiver is right there. It just is. And this is a really good wide receiver class, and it is pretty deep. They're also going to fly off the board. And so I'm going to take over because you know what? I think Ladd McConkey is a first rounder. I think if you have a good quarterback, you look at him, his quickness, his skill set, what he was able to do at Georgia when healthy. Now, health does matter, but man, his quickness, route running, I think he can play outside. He's someone I think could sneak into the first round. And so when I look at that, I think like Malachi Corley, by the way, is someone I think could be an early day 2 pick. And so if you're picking 28th, you may have a whole bunch of receivers that are on your board. And you're like, well, are they going to be there when we're on the clock in round 2? Because if not, we might have to take one now. And that's why Xavier Legette could sneak in, or one of these guys could sneak in that you don't necessarily expect. I think Ladd McConkey goes before Legette, but never say never.
No, I love Ladd McConkey. I'm very big on Adonai Mitchell, man. Like he has the size and he's a great route runner. Like the way that he gets in and out of his break. Like I am just so impressed by the way that he moves, with how big he can and how much space he occupies and how good he runs. I am very eager to see Adonai Mitchell where he goes in the NFL. Like if the Chiefs get Adonai Mitchell, I will be like, okay, that's not fair. Like, come on, Chiefs, have a heart, take a guard. Come on, don't give Patrick Mahomes another weapon. He doesn't need that. But in all seriousness, I think this is a spectacular class. I also think that if you waited into the second round, you can still get a really good player. I really like Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. I love Malachi Corley. I'm trying to keep him down. I'm trying to like, hey, no one talk about Malachi Corley. Let him slip to like the third round. That's where the real value is. But my favorite second round wide receiver, Roman Wilson out of Michigan. The way that dude gets down his break. I loved his Senior Bowl tape. I loved a lot of the plays that he makes, his explosiveness, the speed that he showed at the combine. Roman Wilson is a dog, in my opinion. If you get him, that's the thing, is that like if the Browns had drafted Roman Wilson, I think that Roman Wilson as a rookie would be a better player for them than Jerry Jeudy right now. Like that's just I legit think Roman Wilson's going to be that guy in the NFL. That's less of a dig on Jeudy, more of like a Roman Wilson is ready to go. And I think that there's quite a few of those guys in this draft class that are ready to go at wide receiver and could be game breakers in the NFL. No doubt. Like that's what I think is interesting. Just getting back to the first round, like you mentioned Brian Thomas, and he's someone that has been mocked to the back half of the first round. Mm-hmm. He's 6'4", runs a 4.3, flies. Had great tape in contested catch situations. Mm-hmm. Showed the ability to make plays after the catch. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. They don't make them like that. Like all these guys we're talking about. Not many of them are 6'4", running a 4.3 in speed. So, like, it would not shock me if he goes like 10. If you tell me the New York Jets are like, yeah, we're in on Brian Thomas, would not shock me. Nope. Heck no. And so, heck, are we sure the Bears wouldn't fall in love with a guy like that? I know they have Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is not a long term. No, I don't know. Maybe. And one of the big three could fall too to number 9. I would not shock me either if one of those guys, just because of the like Joe Alts of the world, Fashanu, one of these guys could surprise. I think, honestly, I think Quinyon Mitchell, just going to corner real quick, I think he's a top 10 pick in most drafts. He should be. But could he fall because of the quarterbacks and receivers and a couple offensive line? He might be able to fall there. So it is. He's 15. See, 15. Sheesh. Right. And then the other guy who's not a receiver, but man, is he one of the most dynamic weapons in this draft. I am really curious to see where Brock Bowers goes, because he will be used a lot like a receiver as a rookie. And he's a game changer after the catch. With the ball in his hands, he just makes plays and breaks tackles, makes guys miss, finds a way to get extra yards. So I like Brock Bowers a lot. He's smooth. So there's a ton of skill talent in this draft at wide receiver, and I'm just throwing Brock Bowers in there. I think it's going to fly off the board. I think we're going to look up on day 3, and there will still be guys, but it is not. It's gonna drop off because there's just going to be so many that go even much sooner than people realize. I agree. Heck of a year for a wide receiver draft, and could be a heck of a year for a quarterback draft. This is a really loaded draft class in a lot of respects. We'll have a lot more angles on that as we get it closer. Basically, the draft is a little more than a month away, maybe a week and a month. I'm getting antsy, man. And free agency continues to roll. We'll have you covered on all of that here on the Locked On NFL podcast. Chris Carter, James Rapien here of Locked On Steelers and Locked On Bengals. Thanks again for tuning into the Locked On NFL podcast. You can find it on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel to get all of the daily Monday to Friday episodes. Back tomorrow with more from the Locked On NFL podcast from all of our Locked On NFL podcast hosts.